Since September of 2023, 8 pro-life activists have been held in this Virginia detention center just outside of Washington, D.C. Their crime, attempting to rescue unborn babies from death by abortion. These pro-lifers were indicted under the FACE Act of felony charges and could face up to 11 years in prison.
These jails are human dog cages. They treat them horribly. I mean, it's freezing cold in there right now, and the rescuers are suffering. And of course, they know that they're suffering for the babies. We need to stand up for them because when we defend rescuers, we defend babies.
These interventions at abortion facilities, or as POW calls them, rescues, are often peaceful. Pro-lifers will enter a clinic and ask expectant mothers to leave alongside them. And their goal is to save children from a brutal death.
These rescuers bravely decided to put their bodies in between babies that were scheduled to be killed in Washington, D.C. in 2020. They went into an abortion facility whose abortionist is known for committing heinous crimes against children and even killing them after they're born. He admitted this on camera in a 2011 live-action undercover sting operation.
But instead of D.C. abortionist Cesare Santangelo, it's 8 pro-life people who are now behind bars. We spoke to one of them, Herb Garrity, via phone.
I think when I first got here, it was very, very difficult. The conditions early on were pretty rough. I was in solitary for a while, and at that point, it was quite difficult. But at this point, I've been moved to general population, and I believe all of my fellow co-defendants have been too, though I'm only able to see most of them at weekly church services.
There's been an uptick in arrests of pro-lifers who attempt rescue since March of 2022, when Lauren Handy and other POW members exposed the brutal deaths of over 100 babies at the hands of Santangelo, including 5 children who were likely born alive and left to die. They have come to be known as the 5.
All of the signs continue to point back to Cesare Santangelo's abortion facility in Washington, D.C. We've seen some of the first rescues in history happening on that campus, and then we saw the justice for the 5 babies. All the signs continue to point back to him. He is our Kermit Gosnell, and we asked ourselves so many times, how did they let Kermit Gosnell do what he did? The justice for the 5 babies are still awaiting autopsy. It's been a year and a half. These 5 babies are still at the medical examiner's office, and the mayor is blocking an autopsy for them. We need autopsies for these babies to prove once again that Cesare Santangelo is killing children after they're born.
After members of POW uncovered the 5, they, along with other direct action activists, were charged for a different rescue they attempted back in 2020, in which they used chains and bike locks to block the entrance to Cesare Santangelo's abortion facility in the Foggy Bottom neighborhood of D.C. That's why they're in jail now. What's the common thread? And why are these arrests happening now, so many years later? Here's Kristin's take.
Well, the Biden administration is coming after activists from every cause right now, but we know that just in this year alone, over 12 pro-lifers have been charged with the FACE Act. They're coming after us as hard as they can because they know that this is the way to end abortion, to end the funding that they're getting from the abortion industrial complex, and they're scared.
POW has argued that the FACE Act is unconstitutional because it's predicated on a right to abortion that was invented by Roe v. Wade, especially now after the Dobbs decision, in which the justices said point blank the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion.
If you peacefully enter these abortion facilities in order to stop abortion, if you block access to abortion in any way, you can be held accountable on a federal level and face up to 10 years in prison. This law, it's unconstitutional, and it was predicated on Roe v. Wade, which has since been overturned, but it was still used against these rescuers to imprison them and try and stop them from taking direct action to save the lives of these children.
Here's what Herb had to say about the law that put him in jail, and that could perhaps land him in prison soon.
Now it's unequivocally clear that there is no constitutional right to kill your child. And so the idea of a federal law that hyper-criminalizes one specific type of free speech, particularly free speech that is saying that abortion is a crime and it is violence against a human being, hyper-criminalizing just that type of speech and that type of behavior compared to the slap on the wrist that you get for any other type of nonviolent sit-in, I think is egregious and it's inappropriate. And so I think that the FACE Act should have never been passed, and I think that at this point, it needs to be repealed.
We also asked him if he regrets the actions that landed him in jail.
No, I'm going to continue to be present at places where they're killing children and offering resources so that people don't feel as though that's their only option.
Herb and his co-defendants are scheduled to be sentenced to prison in May of this year.